Hey, good morning. Chuck here with Apple Drains. Today we're down in a crawl space doing several different things. This section of the crawl space we are replacing an old sump basin, and the basin was actually some type of flower planter. So we need to pull that thing out of there and make a proper basin. This opening clip is actually after we installed a new temporary pump, and we had to remove all kinds of pipes and wires, all kinds of things. Whoever put this in put it in years ago, and then other companies came in and plumbed everything you can imagine over the top. So we'll show you that clip too. That's a pretty good little clip. But take a look. This is typical crawl space most anywhere in the country. Whoever put this in, you can see they brought the gravel right up to the pit, and then they perforated the pit. They did not put the inlet line into the pit. So we have to be able to not only replace this, whatever this is, some type of planter, with a real sump basin, but we also have to extend the footer tile into the basin. So it's a lot of work to pull this old pit out of here, but it's something that needs to be done and get it done properly. The problem with this type of system where they just run the footer tile up to the sump basin is that the water can't get to the pump fast enough. So when it really floods, or when the water really begins to rise in your crawl space or in the footer system, it can't get into the pump. You can see what we're digging through all around there. You see there is no inlet line. There's no footer pipe coming in. It's just gravel, and the pipe ended right at the side of the pit.
Derek smelled like he wanted to hold the water. I'm holding it. This wasn't plugged up in that one. The whole pump's gonna fall back in there now.
No. If you hold on to it.
Yeah. That part though.
That's alright. Alright. Had to like wiggle it loose. There we go.
You gotta shake that down.
Okay, now hand me that pump, Tully.
Unmove this one down.
Yeah. Okay.
Got both of y'all too.
You're gonna have to lift it up so we can put that piece of pipe on here. Alright. That's pretty good. I hope we're on there.
You're gonna put it in?
Yeah.
Even before the homeowner told me that a bug company installed this system in the crawl space, I already knew. We see this almost every day. We find that footer tile just comes to a sump pump, or excuse me, a sump basin, and it's usually just some type of a flower pot. Sometimes it's an old trash can, which works, but they don't bring the footer pipe into the basin, and of course the system can't keep up. So much water comes into the crawl space. Take a look.
Going somewhere. I don't know where. It's going somewhere. Yeah, probably. Alright. You got a lot of it dug out for you.
Oh, dude.
Go ahead and carefully move over there and cut those pipes back. Put them back how far? Behind those cable wires. Right here? Yeah. Just cut right through it, John. Don't stop. There you go. Same one. No, don't pull that one. It might come loose, but what if that like short one? lot of water in the ground.
I mean, that's a big old pool.
Yeah, it's not bad, so you won't have to dig very deep.
One of the hardest parts of a crawl space install is, especially for the homeowner, is crawling around in that crawl space. You know, we are in the back of the crawl space, a long ways from the crawl space opening. So if you're going to do this, make the plan. You know, bring the materials that you need and be able to work without going in and out. Because there's so much water in the ground, we just let that pump run. And that way it helps keep it a little bit drier so we can begin to excavate.
I still remember when I flooded Derek with that one pump, man. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, really. Which time? No, it was a good flood, man. It was a good one.
Eddie was doing that one.
No, usually in Cali. I remember that. I was over at something with cross yeah. And I forgot to unplug it. Yeah, it took me too. It really got Derek though.
A lot of people ask, what do we do with all this excess soil? You know, a lot of it's actually going to go back around the sump basin when we put the new basin in. And you can see we're almost there. But you see the groundwater still continues to rise. But we're almost ready to set this new sump basin in here. And then we'll attach the footer tiles into the basin and put a new pump in. Our little utility pump, you know, our temporary pump, this is a Utilitech. And it's 1/3 of a horsepower. It is an extremely powerful pump and very durable. We use this a lot. We bury it down in the mud. It's underwater. I mean, it's a great little pump just for the temporary. And yes, there are times that we install this as a permanent pump. It really depends on that budget. A lot of people don't have that much money to be able to afford, you know, the really expensive pumps. So there is an alternative, and that's Utilitech. It works extremely well. So you notice that our pit was perforated. When we install a pit, especially in Charlotte, down in the clay, we usually perforate that pit because the clay is much denser. Do we wrap it? No. And you'll notice that none of these systems are wrapped in a geotile fabric. There's no reason for it at all. It will simply slow down the water. That's it. Notice how much groundwater there is, and it's still coming in. When we install a system in the clay, it's very important. Do not wrap this system with fabric. I know there's a lot of controversy about that, but my experience, 30 plus years, do not wrap the gravel with fabric. It's going to slow that water down so slow that the system just doesn't function, and the fabric gets packed with clay. Okay, double check, always double check the height of your sump basin. You just want to be right to grade, maybe an inch or two above, and then you can begin to backfill. Always double check. It's real important.
Let me lift it up a little bit. There you go.
So just a few more things to do here today. What we're doing finally is gathering up all the tools, getting everything outside, taking out the trash basically. But I'm actually plumbing the discharge line. You can see the glue and the fitting. I'm going to go ahead and make one last connection here, and this line will finish this up again in the morning. I know this is a little bit different than most of the videos, but this is what it's like when you're actually working in the crawl space, and I thought maybe you guys would really like to see what it's like when you're in a confined space and, you know, all the things that you have to do. So a quick review. The problem here was that the footer tiles did not extend into the sump basin. So we had to dig that old sump basin out, put another pump in. You can see the old sump basin coming out. It was just some kind of a flower tub. Take that out, put in a new basin, put in a new sump pump, and reconnect the tiles. Of course, cover all that up with gravel as well. So what's the tip of the day? Keep your smile.
This is called a Mighty Mate M53. This will easily take care of any water problem you've got down in your crawl space. It's kind of, it's pretty dark down there.
In addition to the crawl space work, we're also installing catch basins around the pool deck, and of course we find this a lot. We pull the pavers and we find that there's a concrete pour underneath of that, so they added those pavers later on. So while I cut the concrete for the pipe and the catch basins, I've got a man on the other side of the pool deck, and he's beginning to trench the discharge line. We'll run the trencher out there, but what's interesting to note is we're going to actually tunnel under a section of this pool patio to attach our system, so we don't have to have so many cuts through that concrete. You might ask why? Well, most people have a liner in their pool, and that liner tends to pop off quite frequently on a lot of pools. The less cuts that we cut through here, the less water that can get along the side of that pool and pop that liner off. You know, we really do more work than most companies. I mean, this is all at one house. We've been in the crawl space. We're out here at their pool deck and discharging water through the yard. It's interesting to note how many people have drainage problems, more than one. When we come out to a house, especially in Charlotte, we'll find that number one, there's no gutters. Number two, of course, there's no downspout drains. Number three, their crawl space has no drainage. I mean, the list is endless. And, you know, if you're going to install the system, you have to do all of these things, not just a simple French drain. We're installing all kinds of rainwater drainage systems. So if you're going to attempt to do all these things yourselves, notice out here by the pool, we've got lots of plastic laid out and very secured. We're going to go ahead and run some water against that blade to keep that dust down, because that gets a lot of dust. We don't want that in the pool. We lay the plastic out because once we remove all this concrete, then we need to excavate. We need a place to set that dirt. Yeah, you could put it directly in the wheelbarrow, but we find it's easier just to set it on the side, because we are going to need something to backfill with, so we need to have some dirt. Pop off your pavers. These have been mass tacked on. In other words, there's a glue that holds these pavers down. We're basically doing this in sections because it's a fairly large pool, and there's, you know, several pallets of pavers to pull. And rather than, you know, cut all this up and let it rain, again, we don't want that water to get down alongside the foundation of the pool, because it will pop that liner off. One of the things that we did find as we cut the concrete here is there's rebarb underneath, and boy, does that make it hard for you to cut. But a good diamond tip blade will cut the rebarb. You'll go through that blade pretty quick and it will dull it, but you'll get through it. So it's nice to rent these things sometimes. I don't mean to pat ourselves on the back by any means, but we do an awful lot of work at each house that we go to. Rainwater drainage contractors do much more than French drains. You know, I mean, we've talked so far about how many different systems here at this one house. And if you've watched enough of our videos, you know we show you such a huge variety of rainwater drainage systems. And hopefully, watching all those videos, I've inspired you to save yourself some money and showed you how easy or how hard this actually is. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day.